Welcome to the Friday Fraudster podcast with Kelly Paxton, pink collar crime expert, Joe Erven, your person for all things ethics, and Robert Berry, the guy who helps you ask better questions. Join them as they discuss sad, funny, and sometimes disturbing fraud stories. Be sure to catch past episodes on your favorite podcasting platform or go to www.fridayfraudster.com and grab some CPE while you're there.
Uh-oh, wait a minute. I forgot about that.
Can we hear you, Mark?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear
Yes.
Mark now. Yes. So today is going to be an interesting day, everyone. So let me just say, we've had some issues with the streaming this week. I went live Wednesday with Audit Bites, and it did not come on LinkedIn at all, but it was on YouTube. So let me start the show by saying, go over to YouTube, subscribe to my YouTube channel, because that will be our backup if LinkedIn goes down. And then earlier today, Mark and I, we were testing everything out, and I couldn't hear a word that he was saying. And to make matters even funnier, I normally introduce it by saying, hey, welcome to episode number such and such. Well, I've completely forgotten what episode today is. Oh, so Kelly,
Do you like my title?
Oh, Kelly, that's another story for another day.
Yeah, but it
But a
ties
funny
to
one.
food. Food is big fraud, man.
Oh, you know what? That's what we should have titled this one. Food is fraud. What did I title this one? Food for fraud.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let me just ask anybody who's watching and or listening right now, have you ever been scammed by some food? Have you ever been scammed in the food industry? I'm just curious. Just curious.
So when I lived in Wisconsin, there was a woman who stole apparently bricks of cheese and bologna from like the PTA. And it was like, okay, we were a bunch of, I'm going to say, crazy mean moms. And someone Googled her because there was a question about money in the PTA, and they found out that she had been busted like for stealing cheese and bologna. And
Ooh.
my comment at the time, after I got over my little snickering, was like, okay, if someone has to steal cheese and bologna, we can't mock her because come on. And she looked like she had a lot of bologna. So, but this is big. This is big money.
So here's the question I'm going to ask. I'm going to ask everybody in the audience, and you too, Mark and Kelly. Mark, what is your favorite food?
My favorite food. I don't know. I'm kind of up in the air. I like some good seafood. I like a good steak. I like good Italian.
What about you, Kelly? And those of you listening, what is your favorite food?
I don't know if I could live without Mexican food. It used to be Italian food, but I do love rice and beans and fajitas and peppers, and I think now it's more Mexican. And what about you?
Well, I think my favorite food is anything with chocolate in it. I can just sprinkle chocolate and peanut butter on anything, and we're all good. But I think it's safe to say we all love food, right? I think we all love food. Thomas says it tastes just like meat. And then Clarence says, hey, he didn't get an email. Clarence. So I'll tell you, here's the trick here, Clarence. A lot of times when you guys receive notifications, it's me going and manually pushing it out to people because LinkedIn doesn't have a good process where you can just click one button and send it out to everybody. So sometimes I miss people, but every Friday, same time, same channel, unless it was last week in which it was same time, but different channel because we went over to YouTube. So Sono says she's here for the chocolate. Hey, there you go. I'm here for the chocolates too. But okay, so needless to say, we all love love food. Now, I think we love food so much. When you really want some good food, the best place to go for food is the Love Lounge.
Wouldn't be at the top of my list, man.
Elmo's Love Lounge, not any Love Lounge. Elmo's
Love Lounge. Wait a minute. I think we have a. You all are gonna have to excuse me this week for my voice. I am really under the weather, so I know I sound like a crackhead this week. But Elmo's Love Lounge. That is where we're going to go to get our favorite food. For those of you listening and not watching, this is a picture of Elmo's Love Lounge, and it is a real place. And it does have something to do with our story this week. You know how I do. We always somehow circle back to the story, and we'll get there in just one moment. Elmo's Love Lounge.
You know, a lot of people refer to Elon Musk as Elmo these days.
Oh, wow.
Just to kind of get around the Twitter machine bots, they just refer to him as Elmo.
Did not know that. Now that is interesting. That is very interesting. So now, Elmo's Love Lounge is on Olive Boulevard.
Can't make this stuff up.
These jokes just write themselves this week. I don't even have to do anything. Okay, so you're probably wondering, what in the heck does Elmo's Love Lounge have to do with anything? And no, it's not a fuzzy bear from Sesame Street. What ended up happening was some inspectors were trying to, provide some oversight for a place that was receiving federal funding. We've talked about this before, right? Federal funding from the Department of Agriculture. And so they went to the address that was on file for a business that was giving out free food. And I say free food in air quotes because the federal government subsidized these companies that were supposed to be giving food out. They were supposed to be giving out free food to the people who needed it. And where they ended up was Elmo's Love Lounge. Elmo's Love Lounge. Now, hadn't we talked about this before, though? The USDA's program. Yeah, we've talked about this a few times. As a matter of fact, we've talked about it so much that they were actually warned about it in 1998 by the Inspector General, also known as, your auditors. Here's that report. You see that date, 1998, Operation Kitty Care. So they were warned way back then that giving away free food via these third parties was pretty much something that was susceptible to fraud. And what do you think they did with that 1998 report? They listened to it and made sure they implemented controls so that we wouldn't be defrauded. No, that's not what happened.
Okay.
It's not right.
True confession, crime, whatever. I had a boyfriend in college, obviously had. He would go and get free cheese. Mind you, his dad was a doctor. He wasn't poor. He'd go and he'd get the free cheese on campus. And I was like, I should have broke up with him right then and there. But no.
Whatever happened to him? What is he now? Is he like a billionaire now? Like Elon Musk? Or
No.
He's running a food bank.
He lives in Wisconsin and he's a cheesehead.
He's a cheese.
But that should have been a clue to me that I did not want to be. And hey, if you needed free cheese in college, have at it. His dad was a doctor, didn't need free cheese. He just got it because he could. And I should have dumped him right then and there.
Yeah. I mean, realistically.
You weren't as ethically sound back then, Kelly.
I was in love. Ugh.
He was very good looking, but he smelled like cheese all the time.
What's the really bad? What's the bad smelling one? Munster cheese? Is that it?
Lindbergh.
Thank you, Lindbergh cheese. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So listen. Here's the story. So in St. Louis, a small nonprofit received nearly $21 million in aid. Here's what's interesting, though. We covered a story where one group, in St. Louis, one group received $21 million. Now, another group received $29 million. These were the huge stories that made the headlines. The one that we're talking about today, they only received $2.1 million from the period of 2020 to 2022. Now, they claimed another $455,000 in 2019. But what makes this one different from some of the others is that they're alleging that this group actually falsified documentation that they sent in. So they falsified head counts and things like that. Some of the other groups, they just kind of said, hey, this is how much money we need. You would think that you would try to verify the head counts. But now another wrinkle in this is, this one seemed to have some dealings with someone named Lorenzo Gordon. Anybody know who Lorenzo Gordon is?
Not until I read
I didn't know until today.
Yeah, nobody else knows who he is either. He's a pro basketball player, but he plays overseas. Wink, wink. So what happened was apparently his girlfriend or ex-girlfriend, who knows? According to Instagram, it looked like they may have still been together when this was occurring, but maybe not now. They opened a business together, and then they started another business. And between those two businesses, they applied for and got the ability to receive federal funding to hand out food to the poor.
The tough thing on that is, unlike Kelly and the Cheese Man, these two don't admit to being in a relationship with each other. They both denied there was a relationship. So they both must be upset at the other one, and not just Kelly being upset at the Cheese Man.
Yeah. I think they might be looking to see who can get the best plea deal from the government.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
I'll gladly pay you Tuesday for a hamburger
today.
So now Kelly has a very interesting poll going on here. Would you break up with a partner who got free cheese from a food program when you knew they could afford it?
Come on, guys, you got to answer yes or no.
I think Kelly, I think a lot of times we don't do the right thing in those cases, because in your case, what your rationalization was or justification was, what? I'm in love. So it could be any sorts of things. He gave me a ride to my job every day. Whatever it is, we find that excuse not to make that tough decision and say, wait, something's not right here.
And he rationalized it. He's just like, well, if I don't get it, the government just throws it away. I was 21. I didn't know. I'd never gotten free cheese in my life. And I was poor.
That's poor. What it is. She's ticked off she didn't get no cheese.
I prefer Parmesan. Yeah. And this was better.
Wow.
No one's answering my poll.
I think there's a small lag, so we're hoping that they will answer it, because I think it was a good question. Would you break up with someone who got free food, cheese, incentives from a program when you knew that they could afford it? Okay, so let's dig into what happened. So inspectors showed up at the place of business where the food handling was supposed to be occurring. They didn't find any food or food-like equipment that could handle the volume that was supposedly being churned out under this program. And they found the Love Lounge, essentially. And I'm really wondering what the Love Lounge really was. I didn't look it up because I didn't want.
It's a nightclub. All it is apparently a dance nightclub. It sounds worse than that.
A dance nightclub.
Right.
So
a disco.
So when they finally got in touch with some people involved in the food program, they said that the records weren't there on site, and that they would bring the records to the inspectors later on to look at. They eventually showed up, but still didn't bring the records. So what they were serving and who they were serving is kind of a mystery. But the owner went on this small tirade when the newspapers called her for comment, and she said, "You know us. We didn't do anything. Stop calling us." Then she referred them back to her website that listed all of her accolades in the About Me section. So that's one of those 3D defenses that I talk about, where you defend, deflect, deny what's really happening.
Yeah. Yep.
I want to know what people think about Kelly's poll. In the meantime, there's something else I'm looking for in my notes that I can't seem to find one now. But right now, never mind, I got it. Okay. Now, Andrea says that's a tough one. What did he do with the cheese? Well, Andrea, I'm pretty sure he didn't like distribute it back out to other homeless people. I'm pretty sure he ate it.
I think I had a grilled cheese.
I see. Kelly was partaking in the forbidden cheese. Sono says cheddar cheese, you can't go wrong. All right, so look, Benito wants to know sharp or old or marble. Now that's funny. Now that is cheesy, Benito. You know
they
what?
were literally like 5-pound blocks. Yeah.
Thomas says, I think he's talking about when I said I did not look up what the Love Lounge was. I really did. I did not. You know, here's what's really interesting though. So I'll tell you, when I was a kid, my great aunt, she was like really old, because I remember she died when she was like 96 and I was probably about, I don't know, 17, 18. So anyway, when I was a kid, she would get federal assistance, and that cheese is not good. It was hard. It was like hard blocks, and we didn't have microwaves back then. So when you tried to melt it down, it would take that thing like 3 days to melt. So I don't know why anyone would actually want to get that cheese for free. That is not good cheese. I'm sorry. That's a I have to get it because I have no other option kind of meal option. That's not high up on my meal prepping list.
So I went to FLETC, the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center, with in '93 with a young woman who was USDA, and she got to do cool cases.
They have good cases.
Yeah.
Yep.
They were really interesting. And we kind of don't think that. Like USDA, ooh, how exciting is that? There's money in food. Lots of money. And cheating. Like I'm not going to say easier, but like faking head counts. We see this in charter schools all the time. Faking head counts.
Yep. And that's exactly what they were doing. They were faking head counts. Now Haley answers your question though, Kelly. She said she used to work at a grocery store. It always bothered her when she knew someone actually had the money, and then she would walk away if she caught her boyfriend doing it. So yeah, let's talk about the actual scheme again, because we've talked about it before on this show. They either fake the head count, they fake the head counts. I mean, that's what it is. Even if they have 20 kids, they might say they have 2,000. That's what we covered in the previous story. Now, in this one, I think reporters are still unsure if they had any kids at all. Like, they think that this is a complete fabrication based on following the trail of the money and the breadcrumbs left by the criminals. I need me a rim shot here for real.
It wasn't breadcrumbs; it was Fritos and Cheetos and stuff like that, right? That's the only food they were taking in was processed food in bags.
Now, here's what makes it a little bit more interesting. The two individuals declined to comment on their relationship with one another, and the basketball player did not want to do an interview. Now, I'm presumably he was overseas, but they have found that the Sister of Lavender Rose, which was the company that was supposed to be distributing the food, the company purchased a residential condo in a very nice area in St. Louis, or right outside of St. Louis. So we know that some money must have gone on a condo because the business itself purchased a condominium.
Well, I Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I like the helicopter flying pastor.
Oh yeah.
Well, that's the other story. That's the $29 million story. The taking that money, and he was a helicopter flying pastor. That stuff, when we start doing that irritates me even more, because that was the same sort of scam of falsely reporting head counts and all the rest. And it looks like he was just fleecing the system for his own personal. He bought a house.
Yep.
And there you have the double thing. One thing, when you apply for these programs as Joe Q citizen, it's another thing when you're representing a religious institution and choose to do that. Get very upset with doctors that are sleazy, people in the religious institutions that are sleazy, Kelly's favorite, lawyers that are sleazy. They all say they aren't going to be, and then they are.
I did this recently because I got a new stockbroker. Like, my old one retired, so I got a new one. And this story came out about this financial planner back east who had like a Lambo and, all Range Rover, of course. And I met my new stockbroker and I liked her. But, met her one day, and then she's been very, very helpful. And I see this story and I send her an email with the story attached to it. And I said, "What kind of car do you drive? I need to know."
Ooh.
And she wrote back and she goes, "I have an F-150 for my 2 Great Danes."
Oh, okay.
And so I was good with it. And she loves what I do, because she's had clients who have been ripped off. She's like, "I didn't even know there were people like you." But she loves what I do. But I was like, this is my test. Like, I don't want my stockbroker. Well, they can drive a nicer car than me, but they can't drive a crazy nicer car.
Well, she didn't drive a Dodge
What do your financial planners drive?
She didn't finish the sentence though, Kelly. She said, "I drive an F-150 for my 2 dogs to take them to the horse farm that I currently own with thoroughbreds." You gotta follow out that story.
Oh.
So she doesn't like nice cars. She likes horses.
No, she's not a horse person.
There you go, Rita Crunwell. You know what? Carol asked a really good question of where did all the food go? So let's talk about this for a minute, because this is where it gets interesting. So the Sister of Lavender Rose, which was the company, paid another company called Infusion Food Services $250,000 at one point in time, and then I believe $250,000 a second time, to actually prepare the food. So there was some food. However, when they found some of the food, there were some potential health violations based on the way the food was being stored. So in other words, the food needed to be cooled and it wasn't stored in a cooled facility. Now, there was another issue too, though, because the Infusion Food Services that was hired by the Sister of Lavender Rose, well, when you have state and federal contracts, they come with criteria within which you can hire subcontractors. One of those criteria was that any dollar amounts, any services provided over a certain dollar amount, you needed to bid it out. That's to kind of prevent you from giving your friends and family certain contractual deals. They were supposed to bid this contract out and they did not. So they got in trouble for that too. Oh, and guess what? The Infusion Food Services seems like the owners may have had a relationship with, guess who? Sister of Lavender Rose, and either our girlfriend or our basketball player. So
that was a pretty close circuit. And the other thing we don't know from the Infusion Foods, that they were preparing some foods. We don't know where those foods were taken, because where they said they were taking, that school indicated they hadn't received food. They'd only received snacks.
Yep.
So where did that food go? I'd say in general, probably there wasn't a whole lot of food made anywhere. Right?
That's what I'm guessing.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the food didn't go anywhere because they didn't buy any food, because they were busy buying a condo and the furnishings for the condos.
And maybe spending a lot of money at the Love Lounge, not for food.
But wait, there's more. So the girlfriend, McLeland was her name, sorry. She actually incorporated Infusion Food Services in February of 2021. So now she incorporated it after the Sister of Lavender Rose had been in business for a short period of time. So I would speculate that she incorporated it because she saw it as an opportunity to keep all the money for herself instead of, you know, outsourcing some of those services to another company.
Yeah, I don't really think there was a whole lot of outsourcing going on at all. I think it was a bunch of her colleagues, and they were all keeping the money amongst themselves. They were just putting under different names, is the way it looks to me.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure.
So what do you do? When you look at some of the questions that were asked by the folks up in, where was that? Wisconsin? Was that? No, St. Louis. When you look at some of the questions asked by the state people, what would you ask as auditors if you go back into that situation? What other, clear, lack of clarity is there that we need to clear up to see the full scope of what this fraud probably is?
Yeah, at this point, I think after watching and looking at some of this, I think you just immediately call in the authorities because here was another wrinkle. So there was another company called Food for All that was supposed to be providing services to Sister of Lavender Rose. And when they went to call that company and looked up its address, they ended up outside Elmo's Love Lounge. And so Gordon, the basketball player, was the owner of Food for All. So they contacted him and he told them that a woman named Keisha Harris was his assistant and handled everything for him. However, Keisha Harris is the kitchen manager for Infusion Food Services. So you got two companies here where Keisha Harris has a connection and link, but these were supposed to be two different outsourced food services providers working on behalf of the Sister of Lavender Rose. So I think at this point, you don't even try to figure it out anymore. You just call the authorities. Gather all your evidence and call the authorities.
I just remember, like in school, growing up, you would get menus. Like, show me the menus. And then you just tie it to the food orders. Oh, oops, no food orders. No, like who as a child didn't look at the school lunch menus, like the menus?
Every Monday.
Yeah.
Every Friday.
I'd like literally scratch out, fish stick Friday and, look forward to pizza or what. There's so many ways.
And what one of those institutions don't keep a head count of how many people eat there? Be it a cafeteria, be it a rescue mission. They want to know how many people are eating there because they want to know how many people they're servicing for any type of grant or funding proposals. So nobody doesn't keep those if they're actually serving those.
Yeah. Well, and I think everybody knows when it comes to grants, if you don't accurately account for the funds that you're spending, those grants get taken away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So yeah.
But we're mocking these people, but look at how much money they got away with. I mean, we're like mocking them like, oh, gee, they're dumb. But look at, they are going to go to prison. We hope,
Yeah.
But like, should we be mocking them? Because,
yeah.
Go ahead, Mark. I want to hear it.
I was just going to say, but then again, Kelly, the word is put out on this, and what was it, 1998, you said, about the vulnerabilities in this program? What's the government doing? And, from a career civil servant here, what's the government doing to protect the resources of the country in these situations? Are we so concerned with getting votes that we just send that money out there without considering where it's going? Because you're not servicing anybody by doing that other than the Elmo's Love Lounge and its various customers. We're not serving the general populace. It's just really wrong. especially when that word is, I mean, it's just clear when you see these, and you see these over and over again. How many of them have you talked about? And it's the same gig every time. Well, we got rushed with the pandemic, and we kind of dropped all of our internal controls, and no, we didn't get any attendance figures for how much food is being given. Like that's an advanced concept here. I mean, it's just ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. Not that I have an opinion.
I just interviewed someone the other day for the podcast, and we were talking about checklists. And it's like, okay, I think checklists kind of keep you like this, and sometimes we need to go out here. But for programs like this, give them a playbook that must be done contemporaneously, period. Like, give them, because I do think some charities start out with very good intentions, but they don't know. Like, and the charities that do feed people, like, you still have to be accountable. So give them a checklist. What do you think about checklists?
I would think that they would get checklists out the yin yang from the federal government, and they just chose to ignore them. I think for some of us, understanding them is difficult enough because they're so ridiculous of bureaucracy. The question is, when you get the results back, what are you doing with it? Who's looking at it? Who's ensuring some sort of, that we're following the rules there?
Yeah.
We should do mystery shoppers for food banks.
Ooh.
See, we're getting creative.
Especially cheese banks.
Do you actually have to eat the food, though? Well, no. Okay. Here's the thing, though. So when you get a federal grant or even a state grant, it comes with a lot of criteria that you are supposed to follow. And a part of that criteria is when you're supposed to report back and who you're supposed to report back to. You can even build in administrative fees into the grant.
Yeah.
So you can say, okay, X number of dollars for administration. Right.
Yep.
So I think now this is what I think, and this is just my opinion, but I think what has happened is, I think for a long time, the government has run on a trust and maybe verify principles, because there's so much federal money coming out for so many grants. They actually get third parties to go out and do some of the auditing. So they outsource a lot of things. And I think in the outsourcing, they've done it under the guise of believing that most people in the world are still honest. And so what ends up happening, though, is we continuously raise our debt ceiling. We continuously dole out more debt as a nation, which gets us to a point where at some point it is going to collapse. It is not sustainable and it is not healthy.
Well, I believe at one point in time, that's how it operated. There was this kind of, we're going to trust, if these people are in this business, we're going to trust. I think it's way beyond that. And right. I just don't think anybody gives a crap at this point. I think, Thomas said the answer is yes, Mark, the money is going out to get votes. Yes. I don't know. I think that's totally ridiculous, because the people that are voting aren't getting the benefits of this. If you only have the people that are getting benefits of these programs, the candidate would have 5 votes for him, which is the 5 fraudsters. The people aren't getting the benefit of it. If you have the integrity in the system, then there would be more money out there for the people that needed it. So I really think there's just kind of a come see, come si attitude about it of, well, if we're providing this money, a lot of it's going to be, handled inappropriately. And people cannot be ridiculous enough to think that we don't have a much greater fraud problem now than we did 30 years ago.
Exactly. And Andrea hit it, though. A lot of program staff involved in charitable programs believe that their sole mission is to get the benefits out to the community. It's a tough job to try to educate them about controls. Because I remember one of our earlier episodes, we talked about Denver, the state of Denver, where their governor just said, we are going to just get the money out. Now, if you look at the stats, Denver is one of the highest states when it came to PPP loan fraud during the pandemic. So it is, look, it's cheaper to just do it now. Pay me now or pay me later, right? Isn't that so? Yeah.
I don't think the people that are really doing it for the right reasons are going to have a problem with the requirements that come along with it. I think it's the people that have no intention of doing it for the right reasons. So there's a big difference there. And I think a small amount of investigation / auditing could determine that very quickly.
Agreed.
I mean, the attitude of this, the woman in this thing, McClellan or whatever her name was, of, don't question me about this. I'm doing good things.
Yep.
Well, that deflection is not somebody who's in this for the right reason.
Well, so I heard a story many years ago, well, not that many years ago, about food banks and how food banks, like all of a sudden, maybe in Oregon, they get a bunch of potatoes because we grow a lot of potatoes. And so they have this kind of swapping sort of program. And it's like, it was some smart person who's like, okay, there's too much salmon in Alaska. And they literally had kind of like trading coupons, kind of like, and it's going to take some smart people to like, think of clever ways to be able to stop this. Like,
Right.
I mean, the food banks really solved a lot of issues with deciding to kind of do a consortium. Mm-hmm. And potatoes went to Alaska, salmon came to Oregon, or, whatever it was. But a bunch of smart people got together and said, we can solve this. And, I just have to believe that there are smart people working in the government who can solve it. Or at least stop the low-hanging fruit. Pick the low-hanging fruit off.
And then we're back to the studies that show the percentage of people that are really engaged in their positions anymore. And if they really care, or are they collecting a paycheck? And then you wonder how many people really care enough to stop it or change it.
Okay, what's everyone having for dinner tonight? I'm having tacos with some cheese that I paid for.
I'm going to go get some cheese off the street and eat that for free.
Telling you, I'm paying for my meal tonight, guys.
You don't like a good free meal?
Robert?
I don't know yet. Since I'm not feeling well, I might just have a smoothie or maybe some soup. I'm not real sure.
Okay.
Need to get some rest there.
Yeah, that's probably what's going to happen.
Chicken soup.
Yeah. Chicken soup. I heard it's good for the soul.
It is good for the soul. And it warms the cockles of your heart.
Oh, so you know what? One last thing. So now, there was another food program that somehow was tied to these individuals. I can't even get to it like that. But before the state regulators barred it from the food program, another company called Dream It Big claimed that it got $900,000 in USDA reimbursements from the Missouri Department of Health and Human Services, DHSS. Sorry, I think that might be school district. Sorry, I'm saying that wrong. From late 2020 through the middle of last year. Now, on the Facebook page for the people that were involved in Dream It Big, in 2019, McClellan posted a video about her plans to expand Sister of Lavender Rose into California. And so then somebody commented on her Facebook page, I want my own. And she responded back, everyone got to start somewhere. I was under someone for a year before I did it my own. You need a 5013C. Okay, I'm sorry. I was trying to read it verbatim and I probably should not have done that. So anyway, somebody was asking about how they could actually do what she had done. And she just said, you need your own 5013C, which is a reference back to when in 2001, she actually started her own. And so she was kind of breaking away and then funneling that money through that contract that wasn't bid out when it was supposed to be bid out. So this is something that they're teaching each other. They're teaching them the tactic, the tactic.
There's a market for good instruction.
Good scamming instruction, I guess.
Either side.
Kelly said, is there an online course for food fraud?
I expect there is.
And it's a how-to.
Yep.
It's a subscription program.
Step 1, get a 501(c), which is a nonprofit. Get a nonprofit status for your business.
Get that lawyer to sign you up for it.
It's like how many times, ask Kelly how many times in the criminal side of things did the bad guys educate the other bad guys on how to do what they're doing?
Oh boy. Yeah.
Affiliate marketing in fraud. Imagine that.
Oh, there you go.
It's kind of an MLM. This kind of seems like it was an MLM of food fraud.
Ooh, it's an AFM, affiliate fraud marketing.
AFFM, affiliate food fraud marketing.
Ooh, you know
at
what?
ELL, Elmo's Love Lounge.
Okay, I have to just say this because I'm on a high this week from a couple of podcast episodes I've done. I just had someone say, fascinated by your podcast and would love to connect. Oh my goodness. Like I did the most amazing episode yesterday. Like it will drop in 2 weeks. And then next week's they're all amazing. But the one in 2 weeks with Avi Klein, you guys are going to love me. It is full of value bombs, as online marketing made easy would say. It is so good.
Nice.
So loving the podcast.
You'll have to let us know when that one comes out so that we can tell all of our Friday Fraudster friends. All right. Anything else about the food bank and the food fraud? I mean, this is insane.
I think you'll have plenty of more stories that you can cover in the weeks ahead, I'm sure. It doesn't seem to be decreasing. It seems to be increasing.
Oh, for sure, because coming up soon, we're going to talk about the chicken wing scandal.
Yeah, and that's such a good story for audit, I think.
Yeah.
Just because you're going to find out about chicken wings and bones and things like that. But for audit, it's so good, I think.
And I think we'll do it around Super Bowl time. That's the perfect time to talk about chicken wings, you know?
That's next week,
next
buddy.
weekend? Oh, I'm not going to be here.
Oh, that is next week. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be here.
Huh.
I'm spending the morning with lawyers, Mark.
Oh, what fun.
Well, that'll be enjoyable. That's like going to the proctologist twice.
Yeah. At least I don't have to pay for it.
Oh, that's good because, you know, they charge you a gazillion dollars every 10th of a second. So
6-minute increments.
There you go. Yeah. And that's real. For anybody who doesn't know, that is so real.
The only math lawyers do is multiply the 6-minute increment. That is the only math they do.
That was funny. I like that one. All right. So any of our Friday Fraudster family, if you have any comments, any stories that you'd like for us to cover, just send them to us. You want CPEs for quite a few episodes? We didn't do it for today's episode. Go to FridayFraudster.com, especially while you're watching the show live. You can watch it directly on my website and then take a test right after and get your CPE. What fun is that? Go to subscribe to our YouTube channel too while you're here. Let's grow that bad boy and make it the best audit resource on YouTube. How about that?
You guys are all going to be thinking about us when you're eating dinner tonight.
I'm going to be wondering if my cheese is stolen.
If you can cut it, it's not.
What about grated on tacos?
It's a very good point. All right. So we'll see you guys.
Robert, gotta go. See ya.
Yeah.